Introducing Mantle, a high-performance Ethereum Layer-2 network built with modular design, low fees, and high security. Mantle is the first modular Layer-2 solution built for hyperscale dApps. We separate execution, data availability, and transaction finality into separate layers. This allows us to increase transaction throughput while keeping fees low and maintaining the security and decentralized nature of Ethereum. Mantle is accelerated by BitDAO, the largest DAO-governed treasury, giving our community a greater say in its growth and development. And with the use of our native token, BIT, communities can be rewarded for their participation and contribution to the network. Plus, as part of the BitDAO ecosystem, developers building dApps on Mantle will have access to an extensive network of partners, mentors, grants, and other resources. Join us in building on Mantle testnet today and be a part of the future of Web3.
Sure, I can do that. So if you look at, so modularity in general, right, as a concept is something which is not a new concept, right? I'll explain it to you how. Like if you look at Web2 software in general, like if you look at what happened in the Web2 world, right from the 80s and the 90s, we used to see monolithic software, right? Essentially big, like, complex softwares, working sort of with sort of very tightly modules, which are sort of, working and trying to essentially achieve a task. And in you fast forward to today, where the entire world essentially is run through APIs, right? So we don't have monolithic, like big sort of clunky softwares anymore. Like what we generally, any solution, any mobile app or any web app, essentially these days is a combination of, 5 or 6 different APIs, right? And different services, right? Working sort of in tandem to give or solve a problem for the user. So what we've seen in the Web2 world is that, like, we went from monolithic to modular architecture, where today it's a question of APIs. And what the advantage of the APIs is that you can mix and match, update APIs without breaking the entire software. And you can test more easily. And these are the same design principles which we see in blockchain as well. So when blockchains first went live in 2009 with Bitcoin, and even before that, let's talk about Zcash and all of these other concepts, even with Ethereum, what we saw is monolithic design, which is like, if you look at the different layers of the blockchain, which is data availability, consensus, finality, and sort of transactions processing, like all of these things essentially were tightly knit together in Ethereum. But as if you fast forward to today, the future of blockchain design is more and more looking modular, right? Where essentially all of these different parts of the blockchain, which is where the transactions happen, where the data availability is, where sort of the consensus is happening, where the finality is happening, like all of these are different modules. So for us, for example, the finality happens on Ethereum, right, through our sequencer. And for data availability, we're using a separate layer. So essentially it becomes like where you have all the transactions, you have data availability layer here, you have the sequencer, and then you've got like Ethereum right at the bottom. And this is, and with modular architecture, what it allows you to do essentially is it allows you to, for example, upgrade your chain more easily. So tomorrow we could swap out our data availability layer, or we could swap out our sequencers, do like a shared sequencer, or maybe a ZK VM. We could make updates on the chain itself, like where transactions are happening. We could introduce, let's say, concepts like parallelization, and maybe modify VMs. So for example, Arbitrum has come up with this new VM called Stylus. Like, we could like do different things within within the construct of a blockchain, and then by adding capabilities without having to sort of fork the entire chain or do any big changes. And this is a superpower in my opinion, right? Because essentially you create a test bed which you can continuously upgrade with the latest technology, by ensuring that your technology stack is always like at the cutting edge or whatever is available in the market, and it's fully tested and it's compliant, simply because it's modular, so it's easy to run. And that's kind of why I feel that more and more chains now going in the future are going to be modular in nature, simply because it's just a better design choice, much like what we've seen in the Web2 world as well.
Yeah, I got it. So it's very similar to the Web2 industry. So previously, in the previous century, it's only the monolith web application, but now everyone say about the microservices. So I think the change, the moving is the same for the blockchain platform. Previously, they are own monolith platform, but now it's modular. I believe Ethereum, they also have the plan to separate the layer, at least the execution layer and also the consensus layer. So it eventually become the modular blockchain. And I think Mantle adopt the modular blockchain technique right now is very good start. Yeah. So the next question is about as everyone knows, for the layer 2 roadmap, there are two main techniques right now. Is about the Optimistic Rollup and also the ZK roadmap. Uh, and yeah, the debate about these two techniques is the debate never ends. So why did you choose the optimistic runner? Could you say about how is the decision is made?
Sure, definitely. So I think for us it was just about choosing a stack which is more battle tested. I think ZK EVM is something of a certainty now. Like there are so many teams working on ZK EVMs, right? So there's ZK Sync, Roll, Polygon, Tyco, Linea. There might be more in the future. There's also like off-chain ZK teams like Risk Zero, and there's several other. So I think the ZK EVM space is seeing a lot of innovation, and I think ZK EVMs are a near certainty. I think when we had to make that decision a year ago, we wanted to go with a stack, which is tried and tested, because the sheer amount of liquidity which we want to bring onto chain, we wanted to be sure of the technology. So this is kind of why we went with the optimistic approach. But of course, we've been studying ZK EVM for over a year now, and we are in touch with all the top teams in the ZK space. And what we are essentially trying to do is get to a point where we can create some sort of a ZK roadmap for our chain as well. So maybe not this year, but possibly sometime next year, we can start to explore on how we could go from optimistic to maybe ZK, right? And thereby solving the 7-day exit period, and essentially bringing faster finality and possibly faster transactions as well with recursion in ZK. So it's something which I think a lot of people are studying. We are also studying very, very intently and trying to figure out, when we should do this. But right now it's just a matter of sort of the ZK solutions themselves becoming like more and more mature with time, right? And not just like approaches like what ZK Sync is doing with LLVM and transpilation, but also native, like ZK VMs need to become more native, support all the different opcodes, support precompiles. Essentially, anything which works on Ethereum or any other layer 2 chain should seamlessly work on ZK VM, and it should be faster and it should be cheaper. So I think it's gonna take a little bit more time for ZK VMs to get there and become that mature, that they become the default solution. But I think all indications point to the fact that they will become the default, sort of solution. So it makes sense for teams, to study up on ZK EVMs, and we've been doing that for some time now.
Okay, I see. So so you don't just choose only one approach, but you also your team also is studying the ZK, and maybe in the future, in some point in the future, you also apply ZK uh, and try another solution which can combine both the advantage from both approach. Yeah. So I think it's very interesting if we have a solution that can combine both that combine advantage from both solutions right now. It's very good. But I think right now at the moment, each team, each network, each platform, they only have one approach, and yeah, each approach has pros and cons. Mm, Yes, I think there are some question on the chat box. So now let's move to the question from the community. So the first one is someone with the Korean name. Uh, Beside a standalone layer 2, are there any product in the Mantle ecosystem? Could you share the brief vision and roadmap? So maybe beside the layer 2, are you do you have any plan to develop something like layer 3 or some kind of the protocol for intercommunicate between the uh, uh, to communicate with other layer 2 or other blockchain, or do you have any plan to expand the Mantle Network to another layer 1 rather than Ethereum, something like that?
So I think we will continue to work with Ethereum, and finality will always be on Ethereum, simply because Ethereum has like the most distribution, is the most secure platform, and we want to scale Ethereum. So essentially, working with Ethereum is going to be a sort of a surety in the future. Now, and when it comes to layer three, it's pretty interesting. I think that's something which is on the roadmap for us. Also, we've been considering whether we should have like a layer three roadmap or not, or whether we can with zk EVM or with some other technology bring so much scalability that layer three may not even matter, right? If you can bring enough scalability on layer two, then maybe you don't need layer three. So we've been like looking at different approaches, and we don't have a surefire sort of direction yet, but it's something which we are continuously studying. In terms of like what are the other products we're building, I think the focus right now is to build products which augment the ecosystem of Mantle as a chain, which is kind of where we talked about what we're doing on the liquid staking side, where essentially we're building a liquid staking derivatives platform where people can go and stake their ETH, and then we'll also offer other capabilities where you can stake your ETH and then restake it on EigenLayer, or you can like do other things with sort of your token. So that's the kind of direction which we're looking at right now. And yeah, I think maybe with a little bit more maturity, zk VMs could do a great job, but that remains to be seen. So yeah, so we're looking at all the different options out there, and then we'll choose whatever is the best option which works for us.
Okay, so there are a lot of interesting topic. Uh, and the next one is I think this question is from the same person. Uh, is Mantle a multi-purpose platform, or do you focus and encourage any particular type of application on your platform, like DeFi, GameFi, or NFT, something like that? What is your strategy to acquire user and market share from other competitors?
So in terms of the platform, we're a multi-purpose platform. You can essentially build anything. I think what we are seeing a lot on chain is DeFi, definitely, because we have an exchange. So for DeFi, so I think if you build a DeFi project, Mantle is a great chain to be a part of. But as such, you can build anything. Like because of EigenLayer, the chain is very optimized and very quick. So building GameFi or building like NFT fi should not be a problem, or social fi for that matter. I think in terms of user acquisition, ultimately as a platform, it is a function of the dApps ecosystem which we can build. So if we can build a large enough dApp ecosystem, then there's a very good chance that we'll end up in a good place. If we can't build a big sort of seven institution, then it'll always be a problem. So that's kind of how we look at this entire sort of space, where we want a developer to be able to build anything, and it's our job to ensure that we put the best technology and the tooling in front of the developer.
Yeah, I see. So because I see from a lot of other layer two, they are focused on one section, one domain. For example, some layer two, they are focusing on only GameFi for the builder to build games there, or another one they only focus on GameFi or DeFi or SocialFi like that. Uh, but you build and and make Mantle is a multi-purpose platform. So for user to build everything there. So it is not optimized for any particular section.
Yeah, I mean, you can run pretty much anything on Mantle. So I would not say that, there are any restrictions per se. But like I was telling you earlier, like DeFi has been particularly successful on Mantle simply because, we have access to liquidity and the other growth levers. So I think it benefits DeFi a lot for sure.
Okay. Yeah, so the next question is how Mantle will compete to other layer 1 and layer 2 focus on technology or leverage through community, especially you have support from maybe. Sorry, you are mute.
Mute, right? So I think one of the advantages which we have at Mantle is that even before launch, we already had a pretty large community thanks to Bybit, BitDAO, the venture arm of Bybit, Mirana Ventures, which also sort of helps us with our venture fund. We already have a very large community, and and for example, the question mentions, when you guys have support from Bybit, we do definitely have support from Bybit, and ultimately, like the way I look at the space in general, like just generally thinking about the blockchain space, like ultimately in blockchain, right, technology is open source, right, which means like the day the technology is released, everybody has access to the same technology at the same point of time, right, ultimately. So technology is open source. So what kind of open source do you have to ensure that yeah, we reach? So that's kind of how we're thinking about that problem.
Okay, I see. So maybe we need to leverage both. So I'm mentioning about the open source. For now, is Mantle fully open source right now? For example, if I was a developer, can I just clone and run a local version of my Mantle network on
Yes,
my
yes.
machine?
So you can run a local node, you can do that. I think the only part of the code which is not open source is the data availability part, since we've got the code from EigenLayer. EigenLayer will open source their code first, after which we will open source it. So that's kind of how we built it. But ultimately, I think the point which I was trying to make is that technology aside, like because in Web3 technology is open source, the only thing which is sticky over a long period of time is ecosystem, right? So that's why I kind of always feel that ecosystem sometimes matters more than technology, because technology is something you can like even get from the open market, like you can borrow open source technology, but ecosystem is something you can't. So that's kind of why doubling down on ecosystem kind of makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I see. Got it. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So the next question is the share of optimistic rollup and modular blockchain is scalability. So did you run the performance test and see what is the maximum TPS that Mantle Network can handle? What is the current peak number in the mainnet so far?
So we've sort of tested all the way up to 600 EPS, and we can go way beyond that as well. I think in a roll up, right, EPS maybe is not the best metric, simply because what happens in a roll up is that transactions are bunched into blocks, and then blocks are bunched into batches. So there's a level of abstraction which happens. So even if you have very high TPS, if your batch creation and block creation is not optimized, you may not get the throughput. So that's kind of why I don't really look at TPS like as a very strong metric, but it's something which we have tested internally, and we've gone to 600 TPS and beyond in our internal tests.
Yeah, I see. But I think right now TPS is still a kind of a selling point for some blockchain platform. They mentioned about the 1,000 or even 100,000 of TPS, something like that on other platform. I know for now, maybe the traffic, the real traffic on the mainnet of any platform is still doesn't reach that kind of number. But yeah, the TPS is still the interested concern of many people. So yeah, the next question.
So the challenge period is still 7 days, just like any other optimistic rollups. And yes, optimistic rollups do have that drawback that there is a 7-day exit period. I think the best way to solve that is to have some sort of ZK integration, because then the exit becomes almost instantaneous. So this is something we are researching. In the interim, we have fast bridges. So we have like Axelar, we've got a layer 0 integration, etc. So if you want to move assets from the chain to mainnet and from to Ethereum essentially, or to any other chain, like that's possible today. But the only way to beat the 7-day exit period is to essentially have some sort of ZK roadmap, which is currently what we're building for ourselves as well.
Okay. So yeah, the next question is about another concern, common concern for the Rollup Layer-2. So the sequencer in the Rollup is pretty centralized. So how Mantle team do you have any mechanism to make it more decentralized?
I would say that currently since the network's fairly new, right? We launched on July 17th, so it's been less than maybe 3 months. We still want to keep the sequencer centralized. I think we will move towards decentralized sequencers, but the technology for decentralized sequencers is not fully ready yet. Many teams have talked about it. Like for example, the Eclipse team talked about using decentralized sequencers or shared sequencers. It's something we are researching as well, but I think the technology is not in production yet. So which is kind of why we would want it to be in production for some time before we choose to adopt it, considering the kind of liquidity, etc., and the ecosystem we want to bring to bear. So which is kind of why I feel that like what the user said is a very important point. But decentralized sequencers and or shared sequencers will take time to be to be properly live and been in production for some time before chains tend to adopt those in earnest.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so right now you still have to choose the trusted partner to run the sequencer, but you also have the plan to make it more decentralized in the future. But maybe it will take time and effort to do it. Yeah. So the next question is Mantle Network fully 100% compatible with EVM? So is there any known limitation? For example, I think some other network they have there are some omit of the opcode or the native method are not supported in some other network EVM like. So how is it about?
We're 100% EVM compatible. So we're 100% EVM compatible. Anything which works on Ethereum or any of the other layer 2 chains would work seamlessly on Mantle. So you can literally copy paste your smart contracts and they should work. So no major challenges there, and all precompiles, like all of this stuff is supported. So for the developer, the experience is no different from operating on any other layer 2 chain.
I see. So it's very convenient for the developer to migrate the app from layer 1 or from other EVM chain to Mantle Network.
Yes. All the tooling, everything is the same.
So the next one is what is Mantle solution when Jason under trouble? Drop it to Ethereum like the OP, the Optimism, or work with them to solve it like the API.
So currently it's like Optimism, like OP, essentially. But ultimately, like we are trying to essentially get to a point where for censorship resistance, we should ensure that even if there's a trouble in a transaction, ultimately it is committed. But right now we're using the same method as OP.
Okay, I see. So yeah, for now you handle it more like the Optimism. So I think it's very informative session. The audience, do you have another question? Please type in the chat box. So yeah, we can. We still have about 10 minutes until the end of the session.
Is there any further question from you as well, Andy? I think we can, we can wait for the audience to post questions. But in the meantime, if there's anything that you want to discuss with Arjun as well, feel free to go ahead.
So from me, so I see in the Mantle website you have some collaboration with some artists about the NFT. Could you have to elaborate more about the support from Mantle Network?
let me kind of show you that actually. So if you go through our website, right, you can check Mantle journey. And essentially what we've done is we've created like this sort of SBT, soulbound token, which you can mint and get onto your wallet. And this way, we can check which are the top users on Mantle. Like you can earn miles by doing different activities on chain, and then there's a higher chance that you'll get rewarded, or you'll get sort of reward tokens, etc. So we wanted to create something like this to keep the users engaged with our network. And then we also have sort of the NFT whitelist, right? So we also have something called Citizens of Mantle, which is a dynamic NFT which continuously keeps updating with newer traits as you continue to use the network. And it's been made by this famous artist called Chen Man. And this is a quick brief about our NFT programs per se. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff planned for the users as such on the NFT side, but this is kind of what we want to do in the short run.
Oh, I see. So you adopt a lot of you have said of the technique like the SBT or the dynamic NFT. So yeah, there are a lot of top-notch technique right now, and very interesting about and you use this for recruiting or recognizing the uses of the user on your ecosystem. So I think it's a very innovative and interesting feature. Yeah, so I think there are no more questions from the audience. Yeah, I think we cover a lot of topic today, and it's a very informative session.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for having me, and and giving me the chance to interact with the community. And I look forward to the next conversation.
Is there any concluding message or anything that you want to send a message to the audience?
I just say that at Mantle there's a lot of exciting stuff which we've got planned. So I talked about liquid staking of ETH. We're also liquid staking USDC with Ondo Finance, and we're bringing more liquidity on chain. So there's like a lot of things which we're doing in Mantle. So I encourage you guys to follow us on Twitter, where we post all of the latest updates. You can follow me as well, Arjun Katsi, first name last name on Twitter. And I continuously keep posting about what we're doing as well. And yeah, I encourage you guys to be a part of our community. And interact with us so that you get to learn more about us, be a part of our story, build on us as well. And please do also share your feedback. As you saw in the forums, we're a very decentralized open project, and we welcome feedback from the community. So if there's something you want us to improve, change, please do let us know, and we'll try to get right on it. And yeah, and apart from that, I'd just say, thank you again for having me.
Would there be any specific initiatives for Southeast Asia after this? Is there anything that we can directly work with you on this?
Sure. So we've done a big sort of activation at Singapore for Token 2049. We were title sponsors there, and we had like a big booth and all of that. And we're going to be ramping up more and more, with respect to our presence in Asia. So for example, we had a big presence at ETH Tokyo. We had a big presence at Korea Blockchain Week. I was there as well at Korea. So we're going to be doing more and more events in and around Asia. So stay tuned for our updates. And if and when whatever we do, we will sort of share those details, and we'd love for you to participate as well.
Okay, sure, sounds good. I mean, ABC Station and APEC DAO will definitely want to work with you further to encourage more builders onto Mantle. So again, thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Andy, for supporting, for contributing to the session. Thanks everyone for making your time today. Please do follow our channels, tune in our Discord, or also follow us on Twitter. Very happy to host. Very happy to host Mantle today, and we're going to have more sessions coming up, like more educational series for builders and developers, and to definitely encourage you to join Web3 space. Thanks, everyone. Have a great morning, great evening, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank everyone for spending time with us.
Okay, thanks, guys. Would you mind maybe typing the question in here, in this chat box? We are going to divert the question later to the Mantle team. So for those who have raised your hand, sorry that our time is out. So feel free to divert any question in this chat box or on Discord so we can come back to you later. Thanks, everyone.